Hello and welcome to NPS Now, your source of news and information about Norfolk Public Schools. I'm your host, Karen Tanner. Dr. Li Ying, principal of the Cheng Chung Foreign Language School in China, visited the Academy of International Studies at Rosemont to see how the Confucius classroom is working out. Ms. Zhao, a teacher from Li's school, has taught Rosemont students about China and the Chinese language for a year and a half now. During her visit, her students got a chance to meet and speak in Chinese with Dr. Li.
I talked to her about my name, that I'm glad to meet her, things I like to do, how many years I've studied Chinese, what grade I'm in, that I have a dog, and how many people are in my family. I sort of stuttered. I said a lot, but I knew what I wanted to say. It's a great opportunity. I couldn't believe I'd get this opportunity at all, just by taking a class.
I'm so happy, the principals, from China and the principal in America, they can meet each other and they have the chance to talk about the different teaching system. And I think Ms. Dr. Lee's coming just can improve this program. Yeah, I love teaching here and I love the students because they really want to learn more about China and about Chinese.
Norfolk Public Schools is honored to have several school counselors and administrators selected by the Hampton Road School Counseling Leadership Team with an exemplary professional school counselor and exemplary principal awards. Recipients were honored at their conference at Hampton University. For the elementary level, school counselor Gary Sigler of Sewell's Point. Middle school level, school counselor Darcel Catlett of Ruffner Academy. And on a high school level, Mr. David Bunting of Granby High School. And the Administrator Award goes to Dr. Callie Richardson, Principal of Coleman Place Elementary School. February has been declared School Board Appreciation Month, and during this month, we will recognize our 7 school board members and appreciate their dedicated service to serving Norfolk Public Schools. Cheryl Jordan, principal of Sherwood Forest Elementary School, and Norfolk's representatives for the Elementary School Principals Association of Norfolk, along with the Virginia Association of Elementary School Principals, recently lobbied in Richmond and had a one-on-one meeting with Governor Bob McDonnell to discuss various educational issues in Virginia.
We had the opportunity to meet with Governor McDonnell in his chambers, and he thanked principals for our support of some of his initiatives. We had an opportunity to meet with several senators and delegates and lobby for some important educational initiatives. We're supporting SROs for every elementary school. We're supporting mentors for every new elementary principal, and we're also supporting early intervention for reading and math.
Norview High School will host a town hall meeting on February 6 from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. featuring 3 Norfolk judges for a discussion on how to become a judge. The event is designed to encourage students to consider pursuing legal careers and to honor the memory of the late former Chief Justice Leroy Hassell, who is a Norview grad. The Honorable Lori Hogg, Junius Fulton, and S. Bernard Goodwin will lead the conversation and share their experiences on the bench. Attention all Norfolk High School seniors, join other high school seniors across Virginia for Super Saturday on February 9th during the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and receive free one-on-one assistance in completing your federal financial aid form, the free application for federal student aid. For support, go to the Virginia Tidewater Consortium at 350 Granby Street. And for more details, contact Dr. Tyrone Davis at 683-2312. We broke our all-time United Way contribution totals.
Norfolk Public Schools employees increased their campaign by 38% this year, which is a $37,000 increase. I can't tell you how grateful we are to them and how much we depend on them. It's made a great difference in this community. Thank you so much, Norfolk Public Schools employees.
Norfolk Public Schools is proud to celebrate African American History Month, and Jaycox Elementary School is hosting a celebration and sing-along featuring performances by the David Gilbert Jaycox Elementary School Boys Choir, NSU Vocal Jazz Ensemble, the Boys Choir of Hampton Roads, and other recognitions on February 12th. Hold on to your Admirals hockey tickets. The makeup game for the NPS Admirals Night Out hockey game has been rescheduled for Friday, March 1st at 7:30 p.m. at the Norfolk Scope. You can use your tickets to attend this game or any Admiral hockey game this season. We hope to see you there. Up next, we'll meet the new Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Michael Thornton. Stay tuned to NPS Now. Welcome back to NPS Now. With me today is Dr. Michael Thornton, Norfolk Public Schools Chief Financial Officer. Welcome to NPS Now.
It's good to be here.
Or should I say welcome back to NPS Now.
Thank you. It is good to be back in Norfolk, which is my hometown and where I started my career, so I'm glad to be back.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. When were you here with Norfolk Public Schools and what was your position?
I was first here in 1990. And I served for about 8 years. I left here in 1998. My first position was a student activity fund auditor, and that allowed me to work with school board office employees and bookkeepers out at the schools. I spent probably 75% of my time working at the schools with bookkeepers.
Oh wow! So did you come straight from college here, or?
Actually, when I finished college in 1986, I started as an internal auditor with Norfolk State University. My undergraduate degree is in accounting, so that was my first professional level position.
Wonderful. Now, were you a product of Norfolk Public Schools?
I was. I actually received my primary year's education here in the city of Norfolk. I was born in Norfolk. I attended Little Creek Elementary School through the 4th grade, and then my family, we moved to the city of Chesapeake.
Wow. So what do you think has changed about Norfolk since you've last been here at Norfolk Public Schools?
Clearly, accountability has changed significantly. The demands that are placed on our students and teachers, and that's been universal. And the resources, unfortunately, are not keeping pace with the demands.
Right. So as the new CFO here in Norfolk Schools, what do you see that you'd like to streamline, change, or implement?
Well, the first thing I want to do is kind of integrate myself into the culture here in Norfolk Public Schools. I know that there's a commitment to student achievement, and I want finance to be an integral part of that. Finance really provides the means for achieving a lot of these priorities and goals, and I want to make sure that we're a part of that discussion and that we're providing the support needed to make those things happen for children.
Tell me about some of your former experience
Okay.
before coming to Norfolk.
Sure. When I left Norfolk in 1998, I took a position with Williamsburg-James City County Schools as the business manager, and I was there for 7 years. I also served as the assistant superintendent for business and operations in Williamsburg. When I left Williamsburg in 2006, I went with Hampton City Schools as assistant superintendent and chief operations officer. And most recently, I was with Hanover County Public Schools near Richmond, Virginia, and I served as assistant superintendent for business and operations. So the last 15 years, I was able to build on the foundation that I was able to establish here in Norfolk. So now that brings me back full circle to Norfolk.
Well, your experience is very wide and of great range, and you have a lot of experience with school systems. I would have thought you would have been in the corporate area, but you've been in the school system pretty much ever since you left us.
27 years.
Wow.
When I started in 1986 in higher ed and then made the transition, as I said, to K-12 in 1990, really for me it became more of a calling as opposed to just a career aspiration. So it's kind of been a commitment of mine. My wife is an educator as well, so we're just committed to education.
We're happy to have you back here in Norfolk, and because of your extensive experience in finance, we're looking forward to having more of a, what shall I say, streamlined and new innovative ideas coming from you for education, because we know a lot of times we're asked to make bricks with straw and we're asked to do more with less. So how do you see yourself looking at our budget and how we can streamline some things?
What I want to do, along with the team, is make sure that we have a clear understanding of what the school board's goals and priorities are for student achievement. And I want to make sure that we do things and we manage the community's resources in such a way that those are aligned with those priorities to ensure that students have every opportunity to be successful.
Right, wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to take a quick break and check out playoff games this week on NPS Sports featuring Steve Sutmiller.
Welcome back to NPS Now. I'm Steve Sutmiller, Senior Coordinator of Athletics. As we are winding down the regular season in basketball, some key matchups took place. We start in Portsmouth, where the Maury Commodores took on IC Norcom. Maury was a game ahead of Norcom for first place in the district. Let's look at some action. The Commodores dug themselves an early hole and played catch-up all night. Jaleel Ferguson absorbs the contact for 2 and the foul. Here, Shaquem Dragum shows some defense with a rejection. Maury hung around due to some long ball action. Jalen Williams knocks down the triple. And here, Mike Bassnight gets the theft and goes in for the easy deuce. Maury hung around, but Norcom was too tough as they moved into a first place tie with a 65-52 victory. The Lady Commodores traveled to the Booker Dome to take on Booker T. Washington High School. Maury was trying to keep pace as they were a game behind Lake Taylor for first place. Here, Brianna Hill swoops in to the lane for 2. Not to be outdone, Alicia DePano takes it into the traffic for 2. Here, Gina Williams goes strong to the hole for the basket. Williams showing she can do it on both ends as she gets the block. Maury was not deterred as Kayla Arege hits the jumper. Maury ran its record to 10-1 in the district with a 60-37 win. Now let's look at plenty of Eastern District tournament action. First up, Eastern District Wrestling Tournament. Wilson High School came in as regular season champions, but with plenty of parity in the district, it would be a tough task to win the tournament title. Going into the final round, Norview held a 1.5 lead over the Presidents. Each school would put in 5 wrestlers into the finals. Wilson, needing a win in its final match, would come up short, as this secured the district tournament title for Norview High School. Final results would have Norview 194.5 and Wilson 193. Let's take a look at the district winners. Top 4 wrestlers will advance to the Eastern Region Wrestling Tournament. This tournament will begin Friday, February 8th. The tournament will be held at Oscar Smith High School. Moving over to the Maury Aquatic Center, the girls and boys held its Eastern District Swim Championships. It was an Maury affair. Both the girls and boys would put up record team scores to capture the district championship. The Maury girls scored 601 points, while the boys scored a record 524 points. Let's take a look at the individual champions in each race. Next up for the Eastern District swimmers will be the Eastern Region Swim and Dive Championships. This event will begin Friday, February 8th. The championship meet for both boys and girls will be held at the Old Dominion University Aquatic Center on the campus of Old Dominion University. For all the results and scores and actions, make sure you check out your big team's websites. More NPS Now after this.
for tuning in to NPS Now today. Joining us is Rhonda Ingram, the Senior Director for Budget. Thank you, Rhonda, for joining us on NPS Now.
It's nice to be here.
Well, we have a great topic of discussion today. We met and talked with you, got to know you a little bit, meet and greet you, Dr. Thornton, and now Rhonda, you're on board. And let's talk about our 2013-2014 budget year. Tell me, what is the recommended budget goals for Norfolk Public Schools this year?
I think the primary goals are to ensure that the budget is aligned with the school board's priorities, which include full accreditation for the school division as well as increased student achievement for all students.
What is our bottom line dollar that we're looking for budget this year?
Well, ideally, we would like to present, excuse me, a balanced budget. Right now, the school division's current budget is approximately $304 million for operating. Ideally, we'd like to have a balanced budget, but we, like other school divisions around the Commonwealth, we're still reeling from the recent impact of the recession. So we still have a budget gap that we have to close. It's in excess of $10 million, and that's been shared with the school board, and we'll continue to work to balance that budget.
Right, so let's discuss Governor McDonald's proposed budget.
Mm-hmm. The governor, as you know, the governor introduced his proposed amendments to the current biennial budget. Next year will serve as year 2 of the proposal. And generally in year 2, there's not a significant amount of adjustments, but the governor does have a new initiative where he wants to provide state funding to support its share of a 2% salary increase for instructional staff. That would be limited to teachers, principals, assistant principals, guidance counselors, and instructional aides and librarians. So that is one initiative that is coming out of the budget's proposal. We are, again, trying to determine what the impact will be on Norfolk Public Schools.
How much is the allotting for Norfolk Public Schools?
Approximately $1.7 million represents the state's share of the equivalent of a 2%. That for Norfolk Public Schools is just about a third of what it would cost to provide a 2% for all staff, because I believe it's a priority of the superintendents to treat all employees equal as we provide these services for students.
Rhonda, let's talk about the standards of quality funded instructional positions.
Yes, as Michael mentioned, that what the governor is proposing is for instructional staff only, which includes your teachers, your librarians, your guidance counselors, your teacher assistants, your principals, and assistant principals. So for all of the support staff, he's not including a salary increase for that right now.
Okay, just not for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what, if that's what he's offering us from the state, from the city level, what would we be receiving from the city?
The total cost of a 2% for all employees, including custodial services, transportation, bus drivers, would be approximately $4.6 million. So the state share of that would be $1.7, so it would require an additional $2.9 million to provide that 2% increase for all employees.
So that means everyone would get an increase.
Based on the governor's proposal, the state would provide funding for those instructional positions, but I believe, again, it would be the priority of the superintendent's proposed budget to provide that 2% for all of the support staff as well.
And I think everyone would be happy to hear that and know that.
Absolutely.
So when will we know something?
Well, the state budget will not be settled until the General Assembly adjourns, and we're hopeful that we will have a state budget by the end of February. The adjournment is actually scheduled for February the 23rd, I believe.
What is the impact of sequestration to Norfolk?
For sequestration this year, there is no impact for the current school year. But for the next school year, if it goes into effect, we could lose 8.2% of federal funding. For our operating budget, that will be impact aid, which will be approximately $290,000. However, the big push will be for our federal grants, which includes our Title I, our flow-through funds, the major ones, and Carl Perkins. So 8.2% of those grant funding was well over $2 million if sequestration goes into effect.
So it's not something we should be worried about right this moment, but it's coming.
It's coming.
It could have a significant impact. We use the terminology Title I and Title 6B, but Title I is the funding we receive for kids that have been identified as economically disadvantaged. And Title 6B would be for our special education program. So you can see that reductions in those particular grants would have a significant impact on the students that have the most need in our community as well in other communities.
And how much do we receive per pupil here in Norfolk?
We receive approximately About $10,000 is our per pupil, roughly.
Wow, I think parents in the community watching the show today has learned some good information today about our budget process. So what's the upcoming steps with our budget process? It's February, so what's coming up next?
Well, behind the scenes, we're still working. Ms. Ingram and her department are working very hard to present a balanced budget. We don't know if we will achieve that initially, but we will have a work session with the school board on tomorrow evening where the board will again reaffirm its priorities, and we will provide the board with an update on where we are in the process of balancing. Then we are continuing to monitor the state budget process. As I said, the General Assembly is scheduled to adjourn on February 23rd. We hope to have final state numbers at that time. The superintendent here is scheduled to present his budget on February the 20th. And following that, a series of work sessions culminating in a scheduled adoption by our school board of the superintendent's proposed budget on March the 20th, after which we'll transit over to the city for city deliberation under the city manager's proposed budget.
Okay, good. Well, I think the audience is like, we'll stay glued to the TV, we'll stay glued to the news to know what's happening with Norfolk. And we appreciate the two of you coming today and sharing about the budget information here in Norfolk and learn a little bit more about you, Michael.
It's good to be here.
Welcome
It's good
back.
to be back.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you joining us for this edition of NPS Now. The show will air throughout the week on WNPS Channel 47, or you can view it online at www.npsk12.com. Thank you again for watching NPS Now.